Hi, everyone, and welcome back to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. Today, I'm very excited. I have Isaac Childress in this show today. He is the health coach, career coordinator at Electronic Caregiver, and I'm really excited. I was thinking welcome to the show, Isaac.
Thank you,
First of all,
Victoria. Pleasure to be
I
here.
was I was thinking right before we went live that I've been doing interviews like this for like a year now, and I've never ever interviewed someone my age. So that's really cool. And it's also interesting to learn that it tells you a lot about the demographics of this industry, right?
Yeah, very true.
So I'm really excited to have you on. Thank you, Isaac, for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure.
So let's start. Yeah, let's start with your initiation story, Isaac. Tell us how you first started working long-term care and what stood out to you about this industry.
That's a great question to start out, Victoria. I first got my introduction in long-term care. I started my career back in 2017 at Sierra Hills Assisted Living Facility, where I was a medical technician. And my primarily duty was to organize and distribute and administer medications on a timely fashion. That's how I got my introduction into long-term care. And I've seen how it can take place home-based, in a facility, and long-term. And that's really where I got my start.
Awesome. And what was it about long-term care that you felt that was different or you felt intrigued by or anything that attracted you and you felt like you could do this in for the long run?
What really attracted me about long-term care is the fact that all of us are going to need long-term care at some point in our life. Long-term care has multiple meanings. It can either start at an adolescent age, it can be home-based or even facility-based when we're a little older. So just that perspective of the effects of long-term care can play on your life, wanted me to get an early start in it and see how I can better understand the long-term care industry and play a bigger impact. I feel like
Yeah.
I've been able to play that bigger impact here at Electronic Caregiver because what we do is specialize in telehealth and technology solutions. And I'm able to assess a patient's needs before it become a critical solution. So that's where I think long-term care takes place long before any critical or chronic illnesses take place. That's in
Yeah.
our homes. Yeah.
No, you're right. And that makes a lot of sense. I never, you actually mentioned that right before we started recording, and it never occurred to me that it literally can happen at any point in life. So thank you for reminding me that
Yes, of
yeah,
course.
makes sense. So tell us about Electronic Caregiver. You give us a little bit of a preview there. What is it about Electronic Caregiver that really motivates you and that you really think it's a unique place to be working in?
Electronic Caregiver is a completely unique place. I love the whole business model and idea. Our Electronic Caregiver was actually founded in 2009 with an amazing vision our CEO, Tony Dorman, had to change the digital health industry. And I think he's definitely done a great way in changing the industry and how we conduct patient care and long-term care as well. Electronic Caregiver, we primarily based off technology solutions and telehealth. But there's so many broad aspects about it. We can go into detail with patients. We work with a lot of providers. I primarily work with cardiologists and pulmonologist patients, but Electronic Caregiver is a very beautiful company that I think taking on the whole as industry in long-term care.
Yeah, and you are the health coach care coordinator. Can you explain to us a little bit what that does that entails? What are your responsibilities? What is your day-to-day look like?
That's a great question. As a care coach coordinator, I work with patients. I check on them. I make sure that their treatment is being adhered to, that they're being in compliance with their treatment. That's actually one of the number one causes of treatments not being completed or fulfilled properly is even medication adherence and treatment adherence. So what I'm able to do is to check on my patients, make sure that they're adhering to their treatment. I'm able to review and assess any critical values. And I'm definitely make sure my client or my patients have independence and a quality of life. Because we are definitely the first line of defense when it comes to the patient care. I'm able to analyze a lot of data, either crucial values, and make sure that they're getting the care they need, either in facility or immediately. I'm able to make sure that their care is coordinated correctly.
That's that's really inspiring. I'm actually very interested on, is there anything that you've learned in that role and your time in electronic caregiver that has taught you how to be a better person, a better son, a better brother? Does your job affect the way you are as a person?
I really love that question because I take the values that I learn in my work into my day to day life every single day because I'm focusing on patient care, and patient care starts in the home, their family, in schools. And I feel like I do take this on because I'm able to understand the basics of what patients are dealing with chronic illnesses and maybe what led to complications. And taking that into my own life, I take care of my loved ones very personally, and I take my own knowledge that I've been able to learn and help people in a broad perspective. And I feel like long term care to prevent that starts way before, as I said, like in the homes and your facilities.
Yep.
And I've been able to take this knowledge and pursue my education in becoming a nutritionist as well, because I feel like the way you treat your body in the beginning can definitely play a long-term effect in chronic illness. And electronic caregiver has played an amazing role in that, in being able to coordinate and correlate my job and my home life. I feel like it's a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, I love that you said that about kind of your career path and going into nutrition and everything. I actually wanted to ask you if younger Gen Z, younger generations were looking at this interview today and they were interested in starting a career in long-term care, right? There's so many opportunities in this industry. And it can go from right there, caregiver in frontline staff to something more administrative and more specific on technology. And there's so many different areas
Yes.
into this industry. So
Mhm.
what would you say to someone that has no idea about long-term care, is just listening to you today and feels your passion and your
Mhm.
motivation? What advice would you give them to attract them into long-term care and make them feel motivated to work on this industry?
That's a great question as well. Motivation for a long-term care can be simply found in your perspective on health and the health of your loved ones around you. Because if you're focused on long-term care, you're able to get a better understanding of when that cares take place, what criteria is met for long-term care, what's the difference between clinical care and long-term care. And I feel like as a younger generation, it's really good to get a start and a head start early to be able to compete in this vast and ever-changing field. And it's ever
Yeah.
evolving. So I feel like the earlier start you get, the better understanding you have of long-term care, and therefore you're able to better help your patients and help yourself as well in an amazing career. So I feel like the earlier you get started is the better. And over here at Electronic, we are actually working with our local college, New Mexico State University, and offering an 8-week course in telehealth to give our students an introduction and get them ready for a career in telehealth.
That's that's awesome. That's really, I think one of the things that really motivate young people, and I think about a personal, it's uh, from a personal story. I think what motivates younger generations is able to make a difference in the world. It's gonna sound a little corny, but it's, we want to feel like what we're doing matters, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is a really big factor here, because it really, what the work that you guys do in long-term care really change lives and really impact everybody in our community, whether we see it or not. It impacts us. And I feel like trans talking about it and sharing it with younger generations definitely will attract them and will bring them into the industry. And for sure, educating them about it really helps. So
Yes, I
the
agree
program
with
that you
you
just
as
mentioned
well,
is
Victoria.
is awesome. Yeah, for sure. So in terms of mentors, you told me before we started recording that you entered long-term care because your dad was in the industry as well. Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with your dad and how that impacted your career in long-term care?
Yeah, I would love to give a little more explanation about how I got my start in my career in long-term care. Growing up in a close family with my elderlies actually living with us, and my father working in long-term care at a veteran assisted living facility, I was able to see the impact that he had on his patients and the impact that he was able to have at home with the knowledge he was able to take home and provide for his family as well. And being in such a close family, I was able to see the effects of that long-term care play out maybe in the beginning stages all the way until it reached where facility and where complications were met and some could have been diverted. But for my father as well, I would go and spend some time with him inside the facility. Real young, I wasn't able to do a lot of things, but I seen a lot of care that he was doing with the patients and the impact that he made just being there for a few moments inside a patient's room, the impact that they had. So I was thinking if my father can have such an impact inside the room when the chronic condition is already at its peak, that I wanted to have an impact on long-term care before those chronic illnesses reached its peak. And I feel like I had an amazing introduction and start with the vision and information I was seeing. And
Yeah, for sure. That's an amazing story. And I can see how seeing your dad doing all these amazing things can motivate you to enter the industry for sure. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story. I want to close the interview today by asking you, what is your favorite memory of long-term care? So a memory or some a special moment that you remember in your career that changed the way you perceived the industry or yourself, or that impacted you in a way.
I've had a lot of beautiful heartfelt moments in my career in long-term care. And I was really able to connect with my patients in the assisted living facility. But one of the greatest impacts that I've felt is here at Electronic Caregiver, because I'm able to touch a variety of patients across America inside their home. They feel a little more comfortable where I'm reaching out to them on a monthly basis and they trust their health coach. And them just having that basis trust, I'm able to analyze their information, their critical values. And I feel like that alone and being able to connect with them has been one of the best parts about being in the long-term care industry, is that I get to work with these patients one-on-one and understand their health as a whole. And that alone has given me so much inspiration to keep going and talking to more patients and checking on them.
I bet i bet that's beautiful. And the last question I'm going to ask you, Isaac, and then we're going to close the interview, is where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is it still going to be in long-term care? Is it going to be in a different position? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
That is a great question. 5 years is not too far ahead of us when we think about it. And I definitely plan on staying in long term care because I feel like in this career, you're able to have an amazing impact on patients and the quality of life. And I feel like that is very important for all of us at any stage of life. In 5 years from now, I definitely see myself still here at Electronic Caregiver, but I also want to become a certified dietitian and nutritionist. I'm able to address patient needs before chronic illness takes place. But I feel like I still have an amazing impact here to be able to touch the patients that do have chronic illness as well. But to be able to tie both of those in sequence would definitely be my dream in 5 years.
Awesome. Well, I wish you all the luck, Isaac, and thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank